What is up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to use a Texas rig. We're going to be using these two baits specifically, a 10-inch worm as well as a 5-inch, or actually a 4-inch frog. But both are soft plastics that are going to work super well in the midsummer heat like we've got today. So we're going to go out to a pond after I show you everything that you need to know about a Texas rig, and we're going to put these baits to the test. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright guys, when you do a Texas rig, all you really need, aside from the plastics themselves, is just a hook and then a weight. So typically I use smaller weights, like this one I believe is an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an ounce. If you're fishing in deeper water, you'd want to use like a 1/4 ounce or sometimes even 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce, even heavier if you're flipping, some heavy cover or something like that. And I'm gonna actually show you guys a little trick that I like to do. I like to add a little bead on there in between the weight and the hook. Oops. So that actually helps add a little bit of sound to attract the fish. But yeah, and then all you need is a sinker stop if you wanna peg the weight in one spot. But you can also have that weight sliding up and down the line. But I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to rig this bait up. I'm also gonna show you what rods I like to use for these two specific baits. So for the Texas rigged worm, I'm gonna be using the 7.3 medium heavy rod with 17-pound fluorocarbon line. And then for frogging, I like to use 50-pound braid on a 7-11 heavy rod. I like longer rods specifically because the spots that I fish have a lot of really heavy cover, and it helps me muscle those fish through all that heavy cover. So I'll rig up the Texas rigged worm first. So the first step is you want to put the sinker stopper onto the line if you're choosing to use that. Alright, so now that you got the sinker stopper on there, the next thing to go on is the weight. So I'm using, like I said, that 1/16 ounce bullet weight. And it doesn't matter the color. Usually I'll fish whatever I have. These are the only 1/16 ounce weights that I have. So that's why I decided to use this red one. But typically I'll just pick out like just a normal lead color. I don't think it matters too much. And then next you want to put on that bead. If you want to go that route, I just like that bead because it actually kind of gives it a little bit of a noise down there when that bead clacks against that weight. I think it kind of helps trigger a bite. Then the last thing you do, you just tie on the hook. Well, I guess that's not the last thing because we got to put the plastic on the hook itself. So I'll show you guys that step in a moment. Yeah, first I'll put this hook on here. The reason why I like using fluorocarbon for a Texas rig is because I think it's got the perfect amount of stretch. I think a little bit of stretch kind of helps you out in this situation, but you don't want too much stretch like monofilament. And you could get away with braid, but I like the fact that the fluorocarbon is 100% invisible. So that's mostly why I will use the fluorocarbon. Specifically, I like the 17-pound. I just think it works really, really well. I use this same exact rod for my jigs. But yeah, I just like to peg that weight about 1 inch from the hook, and then that allows it to kind of slide back and forth and make a little sound too. So then the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna rig up this worm. And check it out, guys. We've got a 10-inch worm that we're using. A huge worm. Believe it or not, the bass absolutely love these. And so we're definitely gonna give it a try. Hopefully we can catch a couple nice ones on it. But this is how you guys rig this up. So you see that little bend in this hook right here? You wanna put the hook right into the center of the plastic and slide it up right until it bends, right there. And then you wanna poke that hook out of the plastic, slide the plastic up to where it's got this 90-degree bend right by the hook where you tie on the hook. So just like this. Then I like to put my thumb like right where I'm about to put the hook through. That way I know I'm not gonna be too short or too long on it. And then you can rock and roll like this, but if you're fishing some heavier cover, this is a really nice tip that I like to tell people, is I like to grab the part of the worm that's in between these 2 points of the hook, and I'll just skim hook it with the point of the hook like that. That way the hook isn't gonna grab any weeds when you're sliding it in and out of lily pads or whatever weeds or cover you're fishing through. But that is exactly what you wanna see. That's a perfect Texas rig. This is a summertime killer right here. All right, next we're gonna show you guys the frog setup I've got going. We're gonna get that one rigged up as well. So for the frog setup, I've got the 50-pound braid on here like I had mentioned. And the reason for that is because I like to have absolutely zero stretch in the line. When you're fishing a topwater, you want that fish to literally take that thing down. And when you're fishing a frog specifically, you want that fish to take it down, and as soon as it goes in between the weeds or whatever cover you're fishing over, you want to be able to set the hook and get that hook in this scenario right through the roof of the fish's mouth. And in order to do that, the best way, the best tool for the job is the braided line. And unlike the Texas rigged worm, all we need for the frog, all we need to tie on is the hook. The weight of the frog should be enough for casting, and since we don't want that frog to be sinking, we don't want to add any kind of weight onto that. So here's the frog that we're using. And all I'm gonna do is the same exact thing that I did with that worm. Except with a frog, you kind of do, like I want the white part to be on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lay up that hook just like that to kind of get an idea of where I'm gonna be popping the hook through the plastic. And that is what it should look like when it's all rigged up. That thing is just gonna kick along the surface, and hopefully a big bass will destroy it. Trying to think of anything else that I missed. The biggest thing is just hook sizes. Typically, if you're fishing a 3 or 4 inch bait, you want to use like a 3/0 or a 4/0 hook. But if you're fishing a 5 inch or a 6 inch or anything bigger like a 10-inch worm, typically a 5/0 hook is going to be perfect for you. You just want to make sure it's a wide gap hook. And yeah, that's it. I hope this helps you guys, and we're gonna actually go out to the pond right now, and we're gonna put these baits to the test. So if you wanna see that, stick around, and let's get out there. Start with the frog. So with this frog, I like to kind of move it a little quick to make it just kind of do that little wag with its tails on the top of the surface. I think that's the way these plastic frogs look the best. You can work them a little slower, but they just don't do as much. But when you kind of work them faster, I think it kind of triggers a reaction bite from the bass. So let's see if there's anything up shallow, and then I'll start casting a little deeper. Typically I'll cast short first, and then I'll start taking the longer casts, just to make sure if I catch one shorter or closer to me, I'm not spooking all the fish that I could have potentially caught farther out. Or if I catch them farther out on a cast like that, I might spook a couple fish that are right here. So it's not necessarily the best thing to do to just start right off the rip when you get to a pond, taking long casts. If you think there might be some fish really close to you, take some short casts first, and then start making some longer casts. Here we go. smoked that frog. Holy smokes. That's another really important key when you're fishing a frog and a Texas rig, just in general. You want to really make sure that they eat the whole bait so that when you set the hook, you're not setting the hook on nothing. Sweet. Nice little bass. See you later, buddy. Thanks for playing. That was fun. He absolutely clobbered that frog. Holy smokes. That's sweet. Let's see if that Texas rigged worm can get on the bass. So I've got that weight pegged about an inch and a half past the hook. So we'll kind of do this when it's down there. And then I like a little bit of weight up front, not a lot, just so that it'll kind of slip in between the weeds and get down there a little bit. These weeds are so thick that I probably could have done a little bit of a heavier weight now that I'm fishing it, but that nice slow drop, I like that. And then it just sits on the bottom like this. And every time you move it, that tail just scrunches up and then flattens back out. It just looks so fishy. This is definitely one of my favorite baits for this type of situation where you got a ton of weeds in front of you. Like, you're not fishing a chatterbait through this, you know what I mean? Like, the only thing that you're fishing is a frog or potentially a Texas rig. It's literally, you don't really have many other options. And thankfully, this time of year, the fish like both. So that's why I rigged up both today, and hopefully we can get one on this worm. Usually I do better with a frog this time of year than a worm, but I also don't fish worms a ton. I do it on occasion, like midsummer, like we're in, you know, now, like mid-July, end of July, but typically I'll fish a frog before I'll fish a Texas rigged worm. Another thing I will say with like a 7 or a 10-inch worm, or even a bigger one if you're fishing one, you always want to make sure that when you feel the bite, you kind of wait till you feel a second bite almost. Like, you'll feel a thunk, and then sometimes you'll feel another thunk, 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 and that's when you want to set the hook. You don't want to necessarily set the hook on the first eat, because they a lot of times will only eat half of the worm, and then they'll go back for a second bite, and that's when you'll set the hook, because that's when they'll have the hook. Otherwise, if you set the hook too early, you'll just be missing fish a lot on this technique. Oh, there we go. Here's one. Eat it, eat it, eat it. Fully eat it, fully eat it. Little one, but my gosh, I could literally see the tail swimming around. I was like, he does not have this full bait. There's no way. And then finally he did. Definitely not anything to write home about, but hey, we'll take it. Kind of took a while for us to get bit on this worm, but I knew we'd get something at some point. But yeah, you'll feel the dunk, 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 dunk. Like, you just gotta wait, because it's such a big worm, you gotta wait until a bass fully has it before you set the hook. So that's kind of why I waited as long as I did on that last one. Usually the bigger bass can even do it in one gulp, but the smaller ones, for sure 2 gulps, but they're 2 bites. Ooh, just missed him. I could have waited a second longer on that one. Set the hook a little too quick. Oh, missed another one. Thought he had it, but it's not. Dude, Austin. Come on. How am I missing these? The third one I missed. Alright. See if the fourth time we can get them. I think we're 1 for 4 right now. Which is not good. I will say these soft plastic frogs, you do kind of struggle on the hookup sometimes, but you also just really got to let them eat it. And that's, you know, what I have not been doing the past three misses. So the next fish, I'm gonna literally give it 1 or 2 seconds, maybe even 3 seconds, depending on the size of the fish, and then I'm whacking them. I hope I get them. Oh, I'm zooming up to it. Got him. Let's go. So you either gotta wait literally a couple seconds, or you just gotta wait until you feel them pull the line. That's kind of what I did on that one. Thanks, buddy. That was fun. There we go. Sweet. A little bit of a better one on the worm. Let's go. Sweet. Awesome. What a fun bite. Takes a little bit more patience. You know, I like to fish fast, so a Texas rigged worm definitely isn't my favorite bait to fish. I'm also kind of realizing that while I'm out here, like, I'd much rather fish that frog. But I will say, the worm, I'll catch them too. So if one doesn't work, just try the other. Ooh, here's a bite. Little one. Let's go. Sweet. Later, buddy. I think that might be 3 on the Texas rig, on the worm. Maybe 5 total. Not bad, not bad. Oh wow, here's one. Saw that one boil in a little bit bigger. Sweet. This worm is starting to get hot. I thought the frog was going to be the ticket, but it's back to back on the worm, I believe. Let's go. It's a nice one. And there he goes. Strong fella. Oh no, missed him. Thought I had it. Felt doop 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 doop. No way. Bro, I just got broken off. Holy sh... How the hell did that just happen? Felt like a super, super heavy fish. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, man. That sucks. cannot believe that just happened. I didn't bring any extra hooks. I wasn't thinking. I just really didn't think I'd get broken off, to be honest. There's no pike in here anyway. Crazy. There we go. Let it sink down just a little bit in between that stretch of weeds, and this fella grabbed it. Sweet. Nice. Thank you, buddy. Well, guys, about a month left of summer, a little over. Might as well bust this Texas rig out and use it in your ponds. It's a great technique to catch fish, especially in a weedy area. So take advantage of it while we got the time to do so. Before we know it, these weeds are going to be gone, and it's going to be the fall season, and we're going to be transitioning to the salmon stuff, and the weeds are going to be dying off, and the bass fishing is going to be changing. Everything's going to change. So while it's really peak summer, now's the time to come out and do your Texas rig techniques and have some fun with it. That's exactly what I did today. It was a blast out here. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Let me know if there's any techniques that you guys want to learn or get better at, and if I can answer any questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments section. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Peace.